Tulane Stadium was an outdoor football stadium in the southern United States on the campus of Tulane University in New Orleans, Louisiana. It stood from 1926 to 1980 and was officially the third Tulane Stadium, following the second Tulane Stadium, which was located where the Telephone Exchange building is now. The former site is currently bound by Willow Street to the south, Ben Wiener Drive to the east, the Tulane University property line west of McAllister Place, and the Hertz basketball/volleyball practice facility and the Green Wave's current home, Tulane Stadium, to the north. Tulane Stadium hosted the Sugar Bowl through December 1974 and 3 of the first 9 Super Bowls, in January 1970, 1972, and 1975. Opening. The stadium was opened in 1926 with a seating capacity of roughly 35,000, the lower level of the final configuration's sideline seats. Tulane Stadium was built on Tulane University's campus. Before 1871, Tulane's campus was a backwoods portion of Paul Fowker's property, where on a plantation closer to the river, Fowker's father-in-law, Etienne de Boer, had first granulated sugar from cane syrup. Since the institution of the annual Sugar Bowl game, Tulane Stadium itself was often informally referred to locally as the Sugar Bowl. It was also billed as the Queen of Southern Stadiums. It was in a portion of Tulane University's main campus in uptown New Orleans fronting Willow Street, with parking stretching to Claiborne Avenue. The original 1926 structure was mostly of brick and concrete. Track and field. Track meets were once held in the stadium. The institution of the annual Sugar Bowl game. The first Sugar Bowl game was played at the stadium on January 1, 1935, matching host Tulane against the Temple Owls from Philadelphia. The term Sugar Bowl had been coined by Fred Digby, sports editor of the New Orleans Item, who had been pushing for an annual New Year's Day football game since 1927. Seating expansion. Tulane Stadium Upper Deck. The Sugar Bowl proved to be a hit, and in response the north end was enclosed in 1937, creating a 49,000-seat horseshoe. In 1939, the north end and sides were double-decked, expanding capacity to 69,000. The south end was enclosed in 1947, expanding capacity to 80,735. A seating adjustment in 1955 brought the stadium to its final capacity of 80,985. In its final configuration, the stadium included 4 concrete and steel sections, separated at the corners of the field, with a short steel upper deck wrapping around the sides and north end of the stadium. The press box was located on the western side of the field, and the main gate, pictured above, was at the southern end of the field facing Willow Street. The support structure for the upper deck was entirely open, exposing the ramps and lattice work, and hiding the original brick facade underneath with the exception of the Willow Street end of the stadium. Lights were installed in 1957. The record attendance for the stadium was set on December 1, 1973, when 86,598 watched Tulane defeat in-state rival LSU 14-0, ending a 25-year winless streak for the Green Wave against the Bayou Bengals. It was the last installment of the LSU-Tulane rivalry played on the Tulane campus. 30 days later, a Sugar Bowl record crowd of 85,161 watched Notre Dame edge Alabama 24-23 in the first meeting between the traditional powers, allowing the Fighting IRSH to capture the Associated Press National Championship. The Crimson Tide was voted champion by the United Press International Coaches Poll, which did not take a poll after bowl games until the next season. Final Tulane and Sugar Bowl games. Tulane Stadium, 1973. Almost exactly 1 year later, Tulane Stadium hosted its final Green Wave game, a 26-10 loss to Ole Miss on a miserably cold, 5 afternoon on November 30, 1974. The game was originally scheduled to be the season opener for both teams, but was postponed due to anticipated bad weather from Hurricane Carmen. Tulane would not play another on-campus game until Tulane Stadium opened in 2014. 1 month after the Ole Miss-Tulane game, Nebraska won the final college game in the stadium, defeating Florida 13-10 in the Sugar Bowl on December 31. As the home of the New Orleans Saints. In addition to hosting Tulane University football games and the Sugar Bowl, the stadium was also home to the National Football League's New Orleans Saints for the first 7 years of the franchise, from 1967 through 1974. The Saints' first home game was a 27-13 loss to the Los Angeles Rams on September 17, 1967, although New Orleans provided fans with a memorable highlight when John Gilliam returned the opening kickoff 94 yards for a touchdown. The Saints won their last game in the stadium, 14-0 over the St. Louis Cardinals on December 8, 1974. The largest crowd for a Saints game at Tulane Stadium came on November 26, 1967 when 83,437 fans showed up for the first meeting of the Saints-Falcons rivalry, which the Saints won 27.